About 25 centuries ago, a young Indian prince renounced the world and renounced his own throne in order to become a philosopher. The cause behind his action was obvious. India was in trouble. There was feuding and fighting and war, jealousy between rulers, and the Hindu religion into which he was born was suffering from a series of desperate perversions. The more sincere followers of the faith were neglected, ignored, and persecuted, and worldly ambitions ran very high. In this emergency, Prince Siddhartha became convinced that there must be a straight and proper way to live. And because of the conditions we are in today, his ideas and his philosophies seem to have very special continuing interest and value to us. Some ways, in looking over his teachings, it would seem that he was a contemporary with us. He had the same problems, and he approached them in the most thoughtful way, a way that perhaps will intrigue or influence a great deal of modern thinking, if it is given the chance to do so. Studying the condition of man, Prince Siddhartha began to develop a series of internal solutions to problems based upon one simple concept, namely his definition or discussion of the nature of deity. He said, if God does not prevent evil, he is not good. And if God cannot prevent evil, he is not God. Something had to explain the condition of the world without blaming it on mysterious factors and forces abiding in space. Buddha, as he became more generally known, had the concept that it was necessary for the human being to reorganize his concepts concerning life, that he must sometime face the problem of his own destiny himself, instead of leaving it to others or future ages or depending upon past times. Each person must work out his own salvation with diligence. Because of this attitude, many people of Asia and also many missionaries from the West assumed that Buddha was an atheist because he did not follow the traditional form of casting the burdens upon the Lord. He felt that it was about time for the human being to face himself. He was probably dramatically correct, but it took a long time for the world to realize what he meant. And there are still only a few who sense the magnitude of the conviction that he gave the world. To begin with, then, Buddha advanced what he called the four great truths. And these four truths, or four realities, or four facts, are the problem of the cause of suffering, the nature of suffering, the end of suffering, and the way to find the end of suffering. To Buddha, the great burden of the world was pain. Not necessarily just physical pain, but spiritual pain, moral pain, mental pain, emotional pain. Suffering, the burden of all that is born, the yoke that all must wear, and this strange, mysterious negation which intrudes itself in every moment of human life. In the moment of great joy, pain is near. In the moment of success, failure is near. Why must man face suffering of some kind through the entire period of his life? I think Buddha would have answered that in this way, that the human being has never been educated to prevent suffering. He has been given all kinds of ways to try to get over it if possible, usually ineffectively. He has never recognized the fact that suffering is a symbol. It is not a symbol of the fact that deity dislikes him. It is not a symbol of the tyrannies of nature. To Buddha, suffering was the symbol of the ignorance of man himself. That he is the cause of his own suffering, collectively and individually. And it is necessary for him to correct this cause if he is to liberate the world from pain and misery. The great sufferings are war, pestilence, natural disasters. The smaller sufferings are physical pains, emotional stress, broken homes, wayward children, poverty, disease. All these are forms of suffering, and they all arise within man himself. If the human being had devoted as much time to the solution of his own internal problems as he has devoted to the extension of his material environment, he would be in far better condition than he is today. We explore space. The Brahmins were exploring it long ago. We send spaceships out. We go into laboratories with all kinds of chemical devices. We create computers and engines and machines. But suffering goes on because the individual has not been taught the mystery of his own nature. He has not been given the courage to correct the mistakes in his own conduct. Of course, while Buddha lived a long time ago, there was a long time before he came. And from the past, he gained certain instruction and inspiration, even as we do today if we are thoughtful. He realized that conditions have gone on the simple basis that whatever happens has to happen. There may be no reason for it. A tyrant arises, it's too bad. But there has always been tyranny. Wars come, it is regrettable. But there have always been wars. Man has always been fighting to win a war, not to prevent one. If he had put as much energy, money, and time into securing the peace, he would have been in a much better condition. Buddha pointed that out when he talked to the Indian general, East Indian generals, 2,500 years ago. Also, Buddha pointed out that all these wars and confusions and conflicts and disagreements and political misunderstandings have had very little effect upon the boundaries of nations. Down in modern times, World War II cost over 50 million lives. And yet today, the boundaries are much the same. No great achievement was made. No great problem was solved. All this, and then a little quiet and another war. What are we doing? Why are we continuously destroying our own peace of mind? And Buddha, looking it over very thoughtfully and carefully, came to a philosophical conclusion. We must realize that in its original form, Buddhism was not a religion. Buddhism was an ethical and moral philosophy, a way of life. And this way of life included a concept of veneration for the divine plan of things. But Buddha was not primarily a religionist. He was primarily an ethical reformer with a very profound insight into the nature of the human being, possibly one of the deepest insights the world has ever known. So he began his study of the problem by attempting to define the nature of suffering. What is it? He said that there are numerous causes of suffering, but all of these causes are subject to remedy. They are subject to correction before the suffering sets in. There are many, many ways in which we attempt to solve problems, but until we reach a realization of the basic facts of things, we will not solve the problems. The basic facts lie inside of each one of us. These basic facts are very powerful in the lives of some and may cause them to be very dangerous people. In others, these facts of life are simply partly present, and these persons are less dangerous and more reformable. But in every instance, the cause lies inside of the person. And from there it spreads outward, contaminating other persons. And when a whole group of contaminated individuals form the population of a nation, the nation is contaminated. Its projects are undermined, and those who are of nobler person and mind are disposed of because they interfere with the private ambition of those who have badly organized internal motive patterns. So, to begin with, suffering begins when the individual allows attitudes and appetites to interfere with common sense. Common sense, the most uncommon of the senses, has to do with the person's reaction to circumstances. There are very few persons whose actions do not result in consequences which these persons do see, do face, do know about, but do not correct. Therefore, in the beginning of suffering is an unreasonable, impractical, unenlightened relationship with the world around us and with the life within us. It has been there always. Some say it is due to ignorance. Now, there are two kinds of ignorance: simple ignorance and complex ignorance. Simple ignorance is the ignorance of the savage and the child. Complex ignorance is far more difficult to work with. It is ignorance which arises not from necessity, but from the unwillingness to face the restrictions of self. It is a kind of educated ignorance which results from being taught the wrong things and having education deprived of every factor that could result in a mature, educated person. Now, we must remember that 2,000 years ago in India, we did not have the situation that we have there now. The great University of Nalanda was one of the highest educational structures on earth, with a student body of over 25,000 and over 1,000 professors. And in the University of Nalanda, Christianity was taught as comparative religion. Things happened. The ancient world of classical Asia was destroyed. Wars and pestilences, most of them due to the abuse of natural resources, came in, decimated and depleted the people. But it was not necessary that this should happen. It was necessary to face up to these problems rather than to allow them